Hey guys, Paisley here. I'm taking a nap. I'm very sleepy. Yeah, after getting Elliot's way all day while he's trying to work. JK, she did actually that. Nope, we're not looking at the Nipex today. Keep your eyes off that. No. That's David's for his work laptop. $25 for a 65-watt Ugreen 3-port charger. And they even have a diagram on their Amazon page for how the 3 ports work that Anker can't manage to do. I've also heard of more people having issues with Anker chargers lately. I switched off them quite a while ago when that guy, which has a cable that plugs in the wall in the back, when it sits unused for, I don't know, a week or two, a significant amount of time. Basically, it doesn't have something PD plugged into it, and you plug something PD into it, it just doesn't negotiate a signal until you unplug the backside, let this whole thing power down, and then plug it back in. Epos Fox actually had a power strip that had something like that built in. Same issue. You need to unplug the whole power strip, which is even worse because obviously you could have computers or something in there, right? This is what we're doing in this video, though, because it is Friday. Yep. And we are going to play some videojuegos. Actually, mainly just Call of Duty while I listen to the WAN show. We have the Maya X that was done last week. And I thought the E1 from Baxi might come in. There's the XE. But the E1 was going to come in. No, it got delayed. So, tried out the Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed over at Squeers' place when I stopped over there to drop off some stuff for him. And was like, holy shit, it's a different size. Even Rocket Jump Ninja didn't know it was a different size because he recently did his video on the E1 and somebody in the comments mentioned like, hey, the Hyperspeed would be a great option because it's a different shape. Why don't you compare that? And he's like, oh, it's a different shape. Same thought I had. I do not, like, I even less understand Razer's branding now because why is this a Hyperspeed? Hyperspeed used to mean same shape, actually sometimes additional functions, like as in they add more buttons or something, but usually it just meant Bluetooth and 2.5 gigahertz, right? And then battery operated. Versus the Chroma and or Pro, Chroma which would later turn into Pro, was 2.4 gigahertz only and had an internal battery. Often the Hyperspeeds would have either no finish or like less options, like not a soft touch, no rubber grips, stuff like that. You know, just cheaper. And in general, they would be cheaper, significantly so. Right? Well, nope, this time. Because, and that kind of started with the Viper V3 Hyperspeed, which I might actually have down here. Hold on. Ooh. Oh, it's the top one. I just don't. Can't read. Oh, so we're gonna need this guy, I'm sure. We're also gonna need one other one that was right below it, which is the Deathadder V3 Pro. And you're like, what are these little? Are you having soup? Because apparently soup comes in squares. Anybody else think that's soup? These are soup and salad containers. Anybody else think of a bowl when they think of soup and salad? But apparently, this shape, if you're ever looking for these, this is referred to as a soup and salad container. That is the size, the shape. That is what you want to store your mice in. Why? You tell me. Right? So we have here our Razer Deathadder V3 Pro. Right? And then we have our Viper V3 Hyperspeed. So as you can see on this, it's just the plain black. This finish coating Started with the Deathadder V3 non-pro, non-hyperspeed, wired edition, basically. So, just black. Actually, no, it might even start with the V2? Trying to remember. V2 Pro, I think, still had rubber grips and stuff. So yeah, it would have been the Deathadder V3 non-pro, non-hyperspeed. So the wired version of this mouse started this coating, which I hate, personally. Get some schmoo on there. It's just like slippery. It's kind of grippy, but like also not. The other mouse that might be good for reference that's actually gonna get replaced here is this guy, which is if you have this mouse, which is the V3 Hyperspeed, just buy the dongle and get the V3 Pro. Now this is heckin' light. I actually think as an original Deathadder user, this is not a Deathadder shape. The hump's in the wrong spot. The ergonomics are very completely different. They did it to appeal to more users because like normally a Deathadder is like a top palm grip, so up here. And this isn't. So, and then if you notice, I like this finish. I could go to macro mode and actually show it to you, but it's a hard plastic textured finish. On the white one, which is generally how you get the Pro models, that's with the Viper V2 Pro, I think, with this hard plastic. It does get a bit dirty. You can see, and you're like, oh, that's Cheeto dust. No, it's just, I sweat on my mice. I need to clean them off, but until I get real bad, I generally don't. Now this white one, annoyingly, the white is still better than this black, in my opinion, because that's a big reason why I went to the white. And I was hoping this white here on the left would be the same as this one, because this is nice and grippy. Especially when you get a little bit of schmoo on it, grips up real good. But no, this white is like a satin still. Little less slippy than the black from my experience. Also, if you look at the feet, they're way better. The reason why these feet get impeded is because of this door. You can tell this was supposed to have a battery in it, but then the dongle just goes under the battery. I don't know why. That seems like the dumbest place ever to put a dongle. And then this doesn't have Bluetooth. This is the first one, or one of the first ones. It's like, nah, it doesn't have Bluetooth. And this is just a better mouse in my opinion, the V3 Pro over the Hyperspeed. So if you wanted the 4K polling, just get the Pro right away instead of buying the Hyperspeed and getting the 4K dongle. However, if you already own this guy, just buy the dongle. Yeah. So let's zoom on in. We'll crack open the Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed. Oh, we got some competition coming in. The Dex and the Thorn. I would say those are direct competition. I had the Thorn and the Deathadder V3 Pro out when I was reviewing the Dex. Thorn feels great in my hand. It's a little bit wider in the front, a little bit shorter in the back. The new E1 from Vaxi actually looks very much like the Thorn. Apparently ergonomically it's almost the same as an EC2, because that is what the CEO of Vaxi designed way back. So we got the Dex. I can tell you the Dex definitely not a rear palm grip like I have. You got to get up. The bump is much higher up. You got to really get it up in your palm that sucker. Watch my review on that thing. But that's all our competition and reference up top here. Didn't like the Deathadder V3 Pro. Actually really like the new Viper shape, Viper V3. Not a Viper. We've been over this. The V2 is a Viper. It's more like an ambidextrous Deathadder V3. So if you take the right half of a Deathadder V3, ka-chow, and you mirrored it, that's kind of what a Viper is, basically. Actually, why I really like it, because it turns out I actually like ergo ambidextrous mice. You know, and IntelliMouse optical, and the list goes on. We got Bob the Box Cutter here, and I forget which blue this is, but it's a really nice blue. And we will be opening up. I thought also generally the Hyperspeed mice came in like god-awful boxes. This is actually pretty much Razer's standard box, unless you buy the very high-end Pro mice now. So, I mean, realistically, it used to be the Hyperspeed mice, and I have a Basilisk V3 Hyperspeed still too, which they added RGB to. The whole point of the Hyperspeed was run on batteries, low power, cheap feeling, like it's just the plastic feel. They're premiuming their low end, and I hate when places do that, because a lot of people would buy the Hyperspeed, or I would even tell them, I'm like, hey, a Hyperspeed's $40. This Hyperspeed, $100. The Hyperspeed's supposed to be the cheap one. What is Razer doing? Like I understand they're like going up market with some, right, but like that's part of why it did well, is because it delivered most of the features and the performance of that shape in a cheaper mouse, right? That's why people bought it. When you make it the same price as a Chroma or a Pro used to be, you know, at least if you get rid of the dock and accessories, back when they had docks and accessories, like the Cobra Pro has the wireless charging dock. The Deathadder V2 Pro had the nubbins that you could get in that entire line. The only one I didn't get in that entire line was the Naga, I believe. I even had the Basilisk. And I actually liked it because it was the same dock. You just pop the dongle in the bottom, put the mouse, worked. Now the dongle, because of the 4K dongle, it's literally in the dock. So you have to pair and unpair. And Razer's pairing procedure is like, if you have two mice that can do, like I had the Viper V2 and the Deathadder V3 Pro, and I only had one dongle, and I wanted to use this on the dongle instead of the Viper, right? Because I could only, like, that was back when it was hard to get the dongles because they only sold separately. And I only had one dongle. My God, if you have two mice that can use the dongle anywhere within 30 feet of the thing, it will not pair to the one you want. Whatever one you want, it will not pair to it. So we just got this. It's cardboard. This is wax coated for sure. I don't know if it's actually wax. It could be something else. But it's just not plain old cardboard. I wonder why they did that. Here's soy ink. But I don't know why it's got the sheen on it, because that means it's not just plain cardboard. Anybody wants to tell me what kind this is? I don't think I've seen it before. I've had Razers, but they were just plain old bare brown cardboard. This to me feels like a waxed McDonald's medium soda cup. Even Paisley's looking at me like, what the fuck's that noise? Yeah, Paisley Marie? Oh, we're still not in. Oh, these used to not be flaps here. So this might be why they changed it. Is because these used to be on cards in there. So this is probably better. But this wax finish, that can't be good. Yeah, the whole thing just falls apart once you kind of... I mean, like, I'll admit it. Razer has always had both premium packaging and even on their lower end products, like this is a well-designed, like they even have these milled out here. I don't know if they're milled or cut, but it's more of like that wood card fiber. Like it's like a card stock almost, like think of a poster board, but not the foam poster board, the thick, like the older school stuff. Because they actually cut this to be able to right turn. Let's see if I can zoom in here. You see it right there? They actually like milled out. So it only goes that far. So it like perfectly fits shut. Like wood. Almost wood, rather than just like bent cardboard. And they put the little foam puck over here. They should have just made this out of like cardboard. Or I've seen places that can make that out of cardboard. Here's our Razer Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed. This already feels so much better in the hand. It feels very close to an EC2. Do I have an EC2 down here? Supposedly it's a scoosh smaller than an EC2. A scoosh. Fnatic Bolt, Steel Series, Cooler Master, 703, Logitech, Vaxi, and PO1. Excuse me. That would be a Negator. I got an EC3C. Pretty dusty. It's unopened. Should we open it up? Alright, well, we can dust this guy off. This is my replacement EC3C after I broke the back button on my original. And we will, once we get the finish unboxing the Hyperspeed Deathadder V3, we will open up the EC3C. I'm pretty sure the EC3C is bigger, or sorry, is smaller. Okay, you get your little dongle holder. We just want the dongle. Right, so another DA, they're finally labeling them. For those wondering, there you go. They're finally labeling them. I shouldn't say finally, because they started doing it with like the Viper V2 Pro, I think, or something. But for the longest time, you would just have Razer dongles that are labeled Razer. And if you had multiple Razer products, even if you had keyboards versus mice and that sort of stuff, because this was pre being able to do multiple devices to one dongle. Like here's the Orochi. So they're all the same shape. So imagine they don't have the markings on them. You know. And now they went away from the white to this like gray. It probably looks more stealth. Which one can you read better? Maybe you should have stayed with the bright white. Depends how that's printed though. There's more texture on the plastic on the Orochi's one as well. CE. Yeah, I don't know if it's... The CE's molded in, for sure. Otherwise, they seem very, very, very similar. There's a little notch for pulling it out that you can get your nail into. That's kind of nice of an improvement. I prefer the white. Depends if that's an infill, if it's raised. It does feel raised. If they're doing infill, they really shouldn't be. You can just use a laser to laser etch that. This also feels a little raised, but not to the same extent. This is definitely printed, I'm pretty sure. The white. Because usually black laser gets like gray colored or like this sort of like off-white color when you laser it. Very tiny printing on the side with the model and the ID that was previously on the back here. I don't know. You guys have any reasons why they would have printed it like even tinier on the side of the dongle rather than just? I think it would have been easier on the back here. Yeah. What's annoying is if I like this Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed, or if you do, even though see, here's where it shouldn't be the Hyperspeed because it's a different shape. It shouldn't be the Mini because we have a Deathadder Mini. It could be, but the Deathadder Mini has a bad rap in the North American market. A lot of people bought it back when it was China only, and then so many people imported it. I don't know if this is true, but from my experience, a lot of people imported it. I was one of them, and it was more for the collection. I knew it was gonna be tiny. But a lot of people imported it, and I think Razer thought that meant they needed to make it in the US market, and they did. And it didn't sell, and it ended up going for like nothing eventually. Like you could just buy them for chump change. So I have a feeling it didn't sell very well. And the reason why is a lot of people wanted it because it was China exclusive, and everybody thought they wanted a smaller Deathadder. And it wasn't the V3, it was the V2. However, they should have really called it not the Deathadder Mini, but the Deathadder Micro, because that thing was like this big. Okay, here's this mouse. It was seriously like in 80% or something, like, which for an ergonomic right-handed mouse, unless you have a really tiny hand, makes no sense. Because the reason why the ambidextrous non-ergonomic mice work or really small is because you don't have ergonomics to deal with. Because if you just take a thumb area and scale it down so a normal sized thumb can't fit there, a normal sized thumb can't fit there, so it's not ergonomic anymore. There's no point. Like, you actually have to redesign the mouse, which is what Vaxi did, going from the XE to the XE small. As much as it looks like it's just scaled down, it is not. There are actually certain dimensions that they found when they scaled it from this to whatever size this is, didn't work, so they reshaped this. That's what you gotta do. Because what works in one size doesn't work in the smaller size for the same size hand. Now, if you're just aiming at smaller hands, which the Deathadder Mini being a China-only mouse originally, there you go. So I think paperwork is underneath here. This is like actually, for looking such like a cheap box on the outside, it is well put together. They printed in silver on black. Now that's fancy. That's fancy. We get normal Razer stickers instead of the green. You get this, like, I mean, they're green, but they're like, maybe not high vis green, but it's more of a lime green than the classic Razer dark green. I'm just gonna put this back in there. The Razer stickers go in the pile of many stickers. If you guys are ever like, oh, I want some SteelSeries stickers for my thing, I'm sure, and you don't have them or you want more, I'm sure I have gobs and gobs and gobs and stacks and stacks and stacks. So, one thing I did notice that they did fix, because on the Viper Hyperspeed, you had to flip this dumb thing up to get to the dongle that's way buried in there. Because most people are going to... Okay, let's put a battery in. This is how most people are going to run this. Right? Now, if this had Bluetooth, this would make more sense. Alright, so dongle's underneath there. Battery in. So that means every time, like, say you're going from your house and then you want to use a laptop or a work computer. So you're going to pop this out, or go into like a LAN or an air cafe. Pop that out, put the battery back in, then plug this into the computer. Now, if this was Bluetooth with a battery, that might make way more sense, because you wouldn't have to always take the battery out, because you just use it as Bluetooth, and then only when you needed it, or say you leave the dongle in your desktop at home, you'd switch that to Bluetooth when you're on the laptop, and you wouldn't ever put the dongle back in it, basically, because you just leave the dongle at home and use Bluetooth on the go, sort of thing, for example. Here, we were peeling this. Oh, they made this mistake, which Logitech fixed on their mice. This whole thing is on the bottom, yes, to protect the feet, but if you noticed where it was adhered to, it's because that is glossy right there. And if you watch my Dex video, I go over how Logitech has learned. They used to have this same piece here, glossy plastic, and they don't anymore. I go over that in great detail, how basically if you have to protect it in shipping with this, and yes, the reason why I do it is because in shipping, if that gets scuffed or marred, or the feet get scuffed or marred, they're going to get complaints, and they're going to get enough returns that it's worth sticking this on after manufacturing is complete, to protect this so it doesn't get scuffed, right? And to protect the feet. So the feet I can that's fine. I would just put, you know, because when these come, here's the thing. These feet come with covering on them before they're cut out, because it's like a piece of double stick tape. It's on both sides, right? They could have just left that on, basically, right? And then you can peel it off, right? Is this easier? Yes. But why this is on there, and you saw how it was neatly covering this all the way around, is protect that high gloss. And I've already fingerprinted up some of the high gloss. So if you think that's going to be an issue and that's going to get wrecked, that you have to protect it in shipping, right? Don't. Do like Logitech. And you could see from their Superlight 1, I don't have the Superlight 2. I did see Squeers's, but I didn't have that for comparison. I was doing this review. But at least from the Superlight 1 to the Superlight Dex, Superlight 2 Dex, they just didn't make this shiny. And nobody cares. I shouldn't say nobody, because apparently a large complaint from some of you out there on the XE Small was you didn't like how the scroll wheel looked. What the fuck? Looked? It's just a different texture. It's lines across. They got little bumps in them and cuts to make them more grippy instead of just a line across. Apparently they had so many complaints about this that they're like, I saw it in the comments of the YouTube video. They're like, yeah, we just tried something else different. Apparently they got enough feedback that they're already changing it off that texture. Which I guess if you guys don't like it that much and you're having that much feedback, they should change it off, and they're very receptive to that stuff. But you don't... The comments were they didn't like how it looked. Looked? Here, look. You don't even see the scroll wheel. Look at it. Look at it. Oh, what? Oh, look. You can't even see the scroll wheel. Like, I explain that one to me, guys, in the comments. Like, are there some of you out there that didn't like how it looked and cared enough to leave a comment? So in here, in this little pouch, this has got to be glued then. See how this peels? This automatically goes like this. And then what supported it was this. So it's going to have enough clearance where it's going to sit on there and keep that in. Like, this is very well designed packaging. It looked like cheap cardboard, but it is like, this is actually like the double thick, like more of like a, it looks like cardboard, but it's not. It's more like board, very thin board, or cardstock. Poster board stock. Just a cheesy rubber cable, which is fine because it's not meant to be used as a wired device, especially on the Hyperspeeds. Those actually in the past don't even have a hole. No hole. Why? Because they're AA, right? Now this is rechargeable. We're getting even further. Like, the price keeps creeping up. So this is really Deathadder V3 Small, is what it is. Oh, for the people that don't like bumps on your scroll, take a look at this. Ha! That's what Razer uses. A little bit more rounded, but that's what they use. Get over it. Like I said, if enough of you put it off, like, hey, good on them for switching it back. But really, like, who cares about how the scroll wheel looks? I'm not. I can tell you, I'm just not that special, I guess. Yeah, this thing's like. This is a surprising increase in box quality, and you've seen me unbox like this guy. And I mean like the actual physical packaging quality, not the presentation. Because some of the high-end Razer stuff would actually like lift out and present to you, which is like, obviously that's a really nice, when you're spending like $150 on a mouse, that's nice to have or get. If you're running Razer at the same time, has cheap enough boxes where it's just like that cardboard is actually this outer, and it's folded around it in a way where once you pop that, it opens up, and all that the mouse is in on the low end, like I think it was Deathadder Mini was like this, because it's so cheap, it's just in like a foam sock, sort of. That's what protects it, and the box is like this big. Like, see, they could have made the box, and I feel like when it ships within Asia, the box is like that big. They want it bigger. If you notice, there's a lot of empty space on the US box shelves, like for being on shelves. For example, too, what's weird about the Zoe is there's zero reason that it needs to be that big. The mouse is not even that big. All right, I need a drink. I'm getting something. All right. At least on Squeer's model, these felt super slick. They actually feel more rubberized to me than the V3 Hyperspeed for Viper V3. The Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed is significantly shorter than the Viper. You can see that. That's where the ass is aligned. Ass aligned. Tip aligned. See that? Oh, and look, they do have dongle storage because they don't have the battery there. They can do this. Oh, that's why they need a little notch in there too. See the little notch? It's not to get it out of your computer. It's to get it out of the little housing here because it fits in so tight. Let's see here. It does come out. So it is a friction fit. This thing doesn't have Bluetooth, so you do not have to worry about like leaving the dongle in and using it on Bluetooth and having this fall out slightly. There you go. See, it will fall out, but when it's in your bag, if you took a decent jostle, there is no like latch mechanism in there retaining it. I'll even flip it over to double check. No, yeah, there's nothing in there. So like, or if you buy the 4K dongle, like imagine this is your 4K dongle, right? Which is, I mean, they're basically the same size because they want you to use this cable to both charge and 4K dongle. I just do this, so I'm gonna make them into a dongle. So this is the Viper V. I should have labeled it. We might have to get some. There you go. It's actually on the back there. See, Viper V3 Pro. That's this, guys. All right. And then my Hyperspeed, I never got one for it because I got the Pro by the time. And then this one is the one for my Deathadder V2 Pro, and I have another one for my Viper V2 Pro. And then here's your dongle. So at least they put a dongle spot in here because on the other previous Pro mice, no dongle spot. Same thing on the Viper V2. Now downside is because it can fall out, like I would not recommend leaving this in if you use the 4K. Take it out, put it in a box safely, or if you're keeping the packaging, put it back in the packaging, or take your other previous dongle and store it in here like this, because then that's bigger. It's harder to lose that. Something. I will decide. I will probably eventually buy this thing its own dongle. And the reason why I would do that is there is a world where I would want to use the Deathadder V3 at the same time as the V2 Pro. And those are the ones that are repairable because they're the ones that I bought separate as dongles. So I'll probably spend another $30 if this does. And I think this is going to replace. Right now, I always have a Razer mouse on hand because I use Synapse to program what was my Orb Weaver, which is now the Tartarus Pro. So there are games that are very bad at remapping or very hard or very annoying to remap the clicks and the scroll wheel and the back and forwards in the game. So you can do that since I already have to run the software for my Tartarus or Orb Weaver or whatever I'm running at the time. I just use a Razer mouse because I ideally want no software running, but I have to have it for that. So I run a Razer software also is good. I mean, make sure you uncheck the Chroma software. Make sure you uncheck whatever. Like just only install Synapse, please. Like then it's actually reasonable. I would argue it's better than Corsair for sure. Roccat is really powerful, not that hard to use, but holy shit, does their RGB take up? Like I had it up to using on my Razer Blade Stealth over here, which is the quad-core i7, 10th and a half gen. It was using up to 30% of the CPU just to do the RGB because it had AI RGB. because, you know, that's what you need on your mice and keyboards. I mean, it looked pretty. But, so this may very well replace the Viper V3 Pro as my, like, kind of on standby backup, like, whether or not I'm using a Vaxi or whatever. If I'm playing a game or doing a thing, sometimes I'll even have programs where there are functions that I want to bind to mouse buttons. And on the Vaxi, there's no programming the mouse, but you can do that here, and you can have it auto switch, you know, if the software is running. Razer's software, especially if you only install Synapse, can be very lightweight. The only annoying part that I find with it is that every time you plug in a new mouse and it has to install it, it forces you to restart your computer, which is the dumbest thing ever because it's a freaking mouse. This went to, you can tell that this is not a Hyperspeed. Pro, single button, on, also does DPI. Oh, look at me, Corsair. Wow, look at this, Corsair. We have a button that does power and DPI. Oh, that's so hard to do. It's as if Razer already did it. Oh, wow. So incredibly hard. Or if we go to the... Here you go. You could do the XE's route, Corsair, and you could have they move the DPI to the right side so you can tip it over and get to it easier as a righty. And they put the power switch on the left side instead of... You know, when they had 3 buttons, they were all down here, and the power switch was here because it was close to you then, right? So you just got one button that does all the settings on the whole mouse, and there's a lot, like liftoff, hertz, DPI, click latency, motion sync on and off. Like, they were able to do that without the software. Some, you know, and like I said, Razer has, like, they've managed to make a Pro mouse that, oh, and it's not just Corsair. Logitech too, look, on-off switch, there's no way to change DPI on this mouse. So that is, I forgot until I reviewed the decks. And I even made an addendum video where I ranted about it. Because I forgot about it during the review. I didn't realize till I started using it. And I'm like, I'm going to switch DP. Oh, fuck. And you have to open up the software, either the onboard memory manager, and right-click and say set as current DPI, or you'd have to be running the LG G Hub software, which is AIDS. The old Logitech gaming something software was much better. It was also back in the era of the G700, G700S that could store 5 profiles on the mouse. Then Logitech went to storing 0 profiles on the mouse. At least you can store 1 now. And some of them got firmware updated so you could at least store 1. That also happened with Razer for the longest time. They went to being able to store no profiles on the mouse. Wasn't an issue for me necessarily because I have to run the software. I think it's annoying that you can't at least store the last profile that you used on the mouse. Okay, middle click on the Viper V3 Pro, much better than on the Deathadder. The more direct comparison is not the Pro, it's the Hyperspeed. Or is it? Because this has a rechargeable battery and it's $100. And I would actually say the V3 Pro is actually more comparable, because if you look, the feet of the Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed are more based on the V3 Pro Viper than the Hyperspeed, than even the V3 Pro Deathadder, right? Because it went V3 Pro, there's the Viper, V2 Pro, then the V3 Pro Deathadder, which is not a Deathadder, it's a Mamba. This is a Mamba. So this is the Mamba V3 Pro. Then we have the not a Viper, because they renamed the Viper the Cobra. So this is the new Viper V3 Hyperspeed. So the new shape premiered as a Hyperspeed. Normally, like this guy, the Hyperspeed shape comes out after the base model, right? But this was the first time we saw the Hyperspeed come out first, and it was a whole new shape. And we're like, oh, maybe only the Hyperspeed's going to be this new Viper shape, and they're going to continue to Viper shape things. Nope. But if you notice, the feet on the V3 Hyperspeed, very similar, you know, like idea to the Deathadder. Then with the Viper V3, we go to kind of like a more classic big pad thing around the sensor. That's my preferred method. Look at that. What is that? I don't even... Oh, and then there is the Maya X that's in now. It's still, they literally eliminated the middle of the mouse. It's kind of impressive, but also like, I think it's stiffer than the Thorn with having less material. I don't know how I feel about with cats having. Oh, we remove the entire bottom of your mouse. And you're like, oh, you can put the sticker on. No, there's no point in putting the sticker on if you design this to have an open bottom. But yeah, so this is very reminiscent. The V3 Hyperspeed, which is really like a proper Deathadder V3 Mini or a Deathadder V3 Small, is very reminiscent of the V3 Pro Viper. Same finish as the V3 Hyperspeed Viper. Like I said, maybe a little grippier, but that could also be because this is brand new. Squares has actually felt really slippy to me, like really slippy, to the point where I considered putting grips on the clicks here. Now we'll see how this goes for me if I have to do that here. But this shape is so much better than this shape. And somebody would have to scan it in to see it does look like they just scaled it down. It really does. Because they crest in the same spot. Like they start cresting right here to here. Right there to there. And if you look here, it's right there to there. Now maybe it does taper off. Maybe it tapers off a little bit sooner. If you're running what I'm doing, if you hold this one closer to you, even though they're different size, it'll appear bigger because it's closer to you, right? And you can kind of line them up visually. I think some dimensions, like it might just not be a straight up downsize. You'd have to have somebody probably like start measuring stuff and comparing. You can definitely see that they've changed the sensor though, because they have a different foot on it. Usually when you have like this shape that's done that way for the sensor that's in there versus, you know, like, for how substantially smaller it is, there you go. Like it is very substantially smaller. There you go. Let's go to 2x here. Like I said, I put my hand on this. I'm like, whoa, that feels way better than the V3 Pro. What the frick? Yeah, you can see how much smaller it is. Like, it is substantially smaller. A lot of people didn't like how high this scroll wheel is. This one's set in much further. You can tell that there. See? This middle click is the worst out of all of them. I think so the Hyperspeed might use worse side buttons. You'd have to watch, like, or check out Tech Power Up or one of their places that actually tears them down, but they might have just switched after the Deathadder V3 Pro, because this feels much better than that, to me. Sorry if I'm going a little bit quiet. I'm just trying to feel. These feel the same, basically. So it seems like it's been a kind of a constant progression from. I don't have the Viper V2 Pro, but V2 Pro, Deathadder V3 Pro, Hyperspeed. See, what's weird is normally they would progress only on the Pros, and then it would get passed down to the Hyperspeeds, or they'd progress on the Chromas, and then it'd pass down to the normals and or the Hyperspeeds or whatever. But it seems like they're like intertwining, because this is not a lower end mouse anymore, really. Kind of is, because it doesn't come with a 4K dongle, but this is now just a different mouse. And once again, this is Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed. If we go off of this actually being a Mamba, and it is, because Mambas are the wireless version of Deathadder, so if you look back. Also, here, I'm grumpy. One thing I'm kind of grumpy about this is with the Deathadder V2 Pro, they gave us DPI buttons on the top. Now, I wasn't grumpy too much because they brought us the DPI button back on the bottom, but they actually like removed features when they went to this to make it lighter and whatever. It still feels good, but the shape is not improving in my opinion. I think they went a bit wider. Now this, I think this shape more people are going to like. Far closer to an EC2. Like I said, don't have one. I mean, I have EC2s. I have most of the... I have the EC2 A, B, Divinia, like all of them through the wireless one. Tyloo, CSGO edition. Yeah. The only one I'm missing is the EC. And I actually tested one. There's a very old written review that may not still be up somewhere on the internet that was of the Monoprice EC, so I have used them. The other thing I'm missing, guys, if you know somebody with the original Deathadder, the Deathadder 1800, sometimes I don't know if it was called Deathadder 1800 or just Deathadder. I don't remember. It's been forever since I've seen that box. I managed to get a new in-box Deathadder 3500 at Walmart in a clearance sale like 8 years after it should have been relevant and in their stock. Who knows? You might have even seen me unbox it on the channel. Long time ago. I have every Deathadder. Oh, the other thing I don't have is the Deathadder 3500 Black Edition, which is the improved one where they fixed the glossy sides and some other stuff on there. And they charge you more to remove features. Classic Porsche styling there. But I'm missing those two Deathadders. I have every other major one in between. Which is why I was considering skipping this one. Because I'm like, oh, it's just a Pro cheapened. No. Squares ended up buying, and I put my hand on it, and I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah, it's smaller. Did I not tell you that? I'm like, no, I don't think anybody's talking about it being smaller. And like I said, Rocket Jump Ninja just did a video on the decks where he did not know in the comments that the Deathadder V3, he was complaining about this being basically too big for his hand. It might be. I think he said he has an 18 centimeter hand. I think we found out in a completely unrelated video that I have a bigger than 18 centimeter hand. I thought it was 18 and a half for the longest time. So I think it depends where we measure from, but generally middle finger, I believe, right? And I think you go from the base of the wrist right there to there. I'm actually 19 and a half. Beep, 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 beep. Maybe bordering on 20. If we just go from like the base of the palm, 19. I mean, I'm just kind of going from this line here. Then it's 19 and a half to 20. You know, so I guess my hand is bigger than Rocket Jump Ninja's. If we try to do it in line, you know, like that, we're at 20. So what I found is my normal grip of like a rear palm grip, which is what I'm going to be using on this mouse, where I go boop, palm grip. See, it's palm. My palm is in it. That no worky. And it isn't necessarily because of the size of this mouse. It's where the hump is. You're like, oh, the mouse is too big. No, it's not. Because if I go like this, the hump is too... like, you got to watch my review of the decks. But basically, the hump is too high. What that means is what you actually do is you pull your hand up, and you actually get it on top. So if you notice, your palm will never touch your mouse pad because this really high back is part of what's causing that. The bump being so far forward and the high back of the mouse here, what it does do is it lines up your ring finger perfectly on this ridge right here. Right along it, bam, you lock that sucker in. Is that my preferred grip? That's what I would consider a very palm grip. Like you're generally doing arm aiming with that, not wrist aiming. So like, you know, this is wrist aiming. Beep, 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 beep. Let's do 0.5x. Wrist aiming. Arm aiming. Right? Generally when you're grabbing something like as big as a Dex, you put your, like, you go top palm, lock in, like you are in, and you know, like that. The reason why I'm not scraping it is because I'd rather not scrape up the brand new feet on it substantially by running it like that. Whereas I prefer more of the real rear palm approach, like that, which is why the EC2 Deathadder. That's why I'm not so partial to the IntelliMouse Explorer, because it's more of like a top palm mouse in my opinion. I can still feel that the bump on here, because the bump, it's like fairly angled on the Deathadder V3 Pro. All right, like, and the bump's kind of here. Right, I can still feel that on the V3 Hyperspeed, but it matters less because it's smaller. I would actually argue that my knuckles are hitting here, but like my hand's actually caved out because it's such an incline. Let's see here. So for my hand, even in palm grip like this, right? Viper's better still. So you remember how I said I might switch? I probably won't. I think we now know that I am partial to ambidextrous ergonomic mice, but I think that the shape of, you see the bumps more back here rather than here. Okay, bump here. The bump on the Viper's back here. That matters a lot, right? And I do like the bigger size. Like the Viper might be a touch big for what I'm used to compared to like the XE or the Maya X. Grip size, like, I'm not just going on dimensions. I often go off of how the grip on it feels, because some people would be like, well, it's wider there, so but I'm like, yeah, but the grip, like, side by side, and go boop boop, and the grip feels smaller, probably because you can grip in more or something. We'll give this a shot for games. I would actually argue, because of this fade on the side here, it's actually a bit hard to pick up. King Arthur's here. King Arthur James, what are you doing? Yeah, those are mice, not the kind that cats go after, though. No. King Arthur, what are you doing? Can I finish up? Oh, you're sniffing the camera. Yeah? Do you want pets? Is that why you're here? I don't know that I have anything that you would want, dude. Yeah, King Artie? So, I may not switch to this. We'll have to see when I game. You know, because I thought, like, you should see my reaction on the decks. I'm like, what the? You know, I was gripping it wrong. It actually felt uncomfortable because it hits my knuckles. Like, where this is, the hump is even further forward, and my knuckles impact on it. So that means you got to pull up the mouse. It's not that your hand's not big enough. It's that you're not, you know, if this is hitting here, you just got to jam that further there. Oh, it's hitting here, right? Just go like that. There you go. I mean, like, it's a bit awkward to do sideways, but you get what I'm saying. And that is where the thorn comes in, where it's like a little bit shorter and fatter. Oh, that's beautiful. For a right-hand ergonomic, this is better than this. And I don't know, because like I said, it's a little bit big in the waist, I would say, for me on the V3 Pro, which is the same as the Viper. So this is better in the waist for me. The V3 Hyperspeed is better in the waist. But grip wise, I can grab a lot right here, because this whole side is up higher and goes back further. Like there's this whole thing right there that this side of my hand can grab, right? Like we're grabbing it over here, even way back here. Whereas because of the shape of the V3 Pro, which was then transferred down to the V3 Hyperspeed, this is very rolled off. Very rolled off. And it slopes down fairly heavily. Like here's the high point. It slopes away from the high point. See? So, I don't know. We'll have to see. That means you're gripping more with this side of the mouse, your thumb side, rather than the opposite side. And I actually prefer to grip with a palm grip. I basically pinch it between these two guys and this guy. And then you can actuate if you grab with the back of your hand here, you can use these guys no problem. So that's generally how I hold it. just tossing my hand on it though, I really did feel like the Hyperspeed. This mouse is just awkward in my opinion. I don't know. Is there anybody that you know that actually really prefers the V3 Pro? Also, if you prefer the V3 Pro, were you somebody that liked the original Deathadder and Deathadder V2? Because those are both, like, the V2 was only a slight change on the Deathadder model. This was like they flipped the table over. Same with the Viper. Now, I actually liked the old Viper shape. It was nice and low, wide. But I actually prefer this shape. But once again, I would argue this is not a Viper. This is, I don't know what you want to call this one. Maybe this should have been the Cobra, and they should have kept the Viper name the same way. Well, the same way as this is a Mamba, because it's a wireless Deathadder, and those were always the Mamba. But yeah, I mean, like, for those of you, this long ass video was to show that they made a mouse that's smaller, that is not called small. It's also not called mini. It's just called Hyperspeed, but it's not really cheaper. But for those that thought this mouse was too big, this may be your right-handed mouse. I would also argue, check out the Thorn. Oh, that it just locks in. It's a little bit wider back here. Your thumb perfectly just... Now, that's with my big thumb. And my right thumb is... I don't know if you can see the size difference there. But it's got some calluses, especially on the sides there and on the... tip. Like, for example, I can't use this for finger. I'll give you guys tips about my security. Let's just put it this way. This doesn't reliably do fingerprint scanning anymore because of how worn and calloused the... Some of you may have that, where like you have spots on your thumbs or other fingers where you've done certain things regularly enough to like wear off the fingerprints. So that's why I can't use that anymore. Yeah, it's they actually look more healed than usual, to be truthful. But they get pretty darn bad. This one's much worse. And I get a here. You see my callus from writing? That then also transfers over here to this side. You might be able to see the shiny right there. So we are overheating the camera, which I don't think is the camera's fault, because it didn't do it at 2 hours. We were at a bit over an hour. I accidentally stopped the camera, however, so I think that's my bad. Because it wasn't overheating. I think it's trying to back up stuff now, which the using of the 5G or the Wi-Fi 7 creates a lot of heat, and then we're also recording, which creates a lot of heat. That's what I think. Because we went for 2 hours before that issue. This thing still feels good in the hand. I felt, like I said, on Squares' used version, that the clicks were getting real greasy. So if this ends up being my main, I may cut out some grips or put like Razer has like hexagon grips. You can hexagon grips. You can kind of like boop 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 and put on there. I may do something like that. I didn't see that this mouse came with grips. Also, a lot of the modern mice that come with grips come with side and butt grips. I like click grips, because that does not affect the size of the mouse for me. Like, if I like this shape, right, and you put side grips on it, it makes it that much wider. If you put back grips on it, it makes it that much wider. That's why if I put grips on, I have to put grips all the way around the mouse, because it keeps the shape if I liked it, and then just makes it bigger, right? Personally, I do not get the point of grips necessarily. You've seen some on like my Rival 106s. That's because I would actually slip when clicking, and that is why I either like textured clicks if available, or I will sometimes put a little bit, if I'm clicking here, I don't even want grip all the way up here. I just want like a little pad, usually center of the scroll wheel forward. So from here forward, that's what I would want, just to stop my finger from sliding when I'm going off. So we're gonna leave you guys with a 360 view of this. I think I forgot the 360 view of the decks, so we're probably gonna shoot that now. Maybe I can do it on my no longer available sticky note cube. Or at least they were discontinued last I saw. Really handy to have for the full stick sticky notes. Best sticky notes out there. Get the super sticky full stick. Trust me, you'll never go back. All right, giving you guys a 360 no scope of the Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed. That's the rear end. You can see how much it slopes off. Not necessarily in the front, right? You'll see that when we get there, but you can see it very, the high point is, so and here's where you can see the angle I was talking about, where this slopes off way faster than the original Deathadder. I think they did that to make it more like fingerprint compatible, or fingerprint compatible. We were just talking about that. Fingertip grip compatible. These are just smaller version of the Deathadder V3's side buttons. I think they feel worse personally, though everything from the Deathadder Chroma onward has felt worse on the side buttons. The Deathadder, I used to give huge props. It was the de facto standard. I think Rocket Jump Ninja might have used it as well, as like the side button benchmark. I think he might have been one video or something. But I've always done that because back in the day, it had full main clicks. Before they put 50 mil with the, was it Elite after the Chroma? They put 50 mil main clicks, and they're like, oh, in order to get better switches here, we had to make those even cheaper. And I'm like, well, I use those a lot too. You should have kept those good. And ever since they switched that, then they went to even like, they might not even be micro versions of your big switch. They might just be like little button switches now. Boo. And for anyone I care about that, back button, I broke the back button on my Bolt, my EC3C. Oh, yeah, we were going to open the EC3C. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Let's keep this 360 going, though. Back. Oh, it's really hard to focus on this black. Okay, you can see the swoop on this side where your thumb goes in. It's not as much as a thorn, but it's comfortable, nonetheless. You got the side here. So you go up, crests right about there. Right? So that's farther forward than it is on the Viper. And that's mostly on the left click side, right? Now we're gonna get to this angle here. You can see there's another nice groove for your thumb. Scroll in. Those sure look like the bumps that you guys didn't like on the XE Small. I say you guys, or whoever it was that like actually complained how they looked. That seems to be what Razer uses, and it is quite grippy. They're maybe more pronounced on the XE Small, but you can definitely see the roll off. Higher up here rolls off to this side. It doesn't cant your hand as much as the Dex does by any means. Also, it being smaller with my, I don't know, I showed you the measurement. My size hand, it's on the smaller size, so with a smaller mouse you can kind of hold it. You're less forced to hold it a specific way, I guess would be the way to say that. You got slightly grooved clicks there. This scroll is really wide, and I don't think it's just the mouse. The Deathadder V3 Pro has it rounded like that, whereas the Vipers have flat ones. I think I prefer flat, but you know, let me know. Do you have a preference there? So we go along this side. We're pretty straight, and then it does come out. But remember, the whole time it's coming out here is it's rolling off. So this is the part back here that I was talking about, where I think you can't get a good grip with the meat part of your hand there. That back meaty part is hard to grab. This part here, maybe it's not supposed to, but I do tend to like to lock in with that, even on ambi mice. So let me go to this side. Zoom on in. You can see this side looks much lower. See, that's where my proposition of take the right half side of the V3 Pro and mirror it, it's about right to make the Viper V3. Now, this is the Hyperspeed, obviously, so it's a little bit smaller. This shell line is really well blended in. You're getting into Vaxi levels there. You know, and this is a very, it's, I shouldn't say very low, but if you notice, we were talking, if you watch my Dex video, I talked about how mice can be canted, forward, back, that sort of thing. This Deathadder is not. If you look at that, all front to back, it's the same height off the surface. Take it or leave it, that is how it is. If you look at the Viper, it flares up a little in the back, right? Then it flares up a little. I don't know if it flares up a little in the front, or if that's the same. Might be the same, and then flare up in the back. Deathadder V3 Pro, flat. So that might be something else I don't like, because generally, the mice I use can't slightly. They're thinner in the front than the back, but I do not appreciate Dex level, where it goes from nothing to a lot of things. Like that's really, this much is nice. There you go. Or it's pretty low, right? And then little swoosh, and then the XE small, even lower, with a little bit of swoosh. It's a little smaller, yeah. Whereas the Deathadder doesn't have that like pickup. The tail just and goes, right? And it's not actually all that low either the whole way to the surface, in my opinion. So there we get this view. You can definitely see that height here. So we're back to that. All right, so this is going to be cut in. If you guys notice, this is actually part of the upcoming Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed video. This is the Dex from Logitech. Full name is annoying. Logitech G Pro X Super Light 2 Dex. Yeah. Yep. So, we got the rear of the mouse pretty high up there off the surface. We got a nice cant. Well, nice is relative. If you like that, like a very leaned over ergonomic grip on your right hand ergo mouse, this definitely delivers. You may or may not be able to see, yeah, even from this angle, straight on from the back, you can see this sharp lip right there. You may or may not like that. If you get your grip right, it definitely locks you in. If you don't get your grip right, it definitely doesn't, and feels hard and in your way. So we're gonna give her a little turn. Okay, you can start peeking here where the thumb grip is. It swoops, and you can even see a little bit of my sweat and grease right there where it hooks in. You got plenty of thumb room if you're something like me that has this, like, especially my right hand, just from, I'm guessing, tools and writing, because like I get calluses from writing and stuff. They used to be worse, like when I wrote more. Just the thumb is bigger on the right hand, and that is an issue I have in mice. Do not have issues with this mice. These are well out of the way. Oh, and we confirmed, since this is being interluded in there, I did get to try Squeers' Superlight 2, because I only have Superlight 1, and the scroll wheel isn't a ratchet on the Superlight 2, but it's also not this scroll wheel. This scroll wheel has some nice feedback. The click is kind of ass, but it has some nice feedback when scrolling, because the Superlight 2 scroll wheel, it went from being a ratchet, like, you know, like you maybe heard in my video, or at least heard me describe in, you know, this video. It went to like almost being like free spinning, but having friction. He didn't like it. It felt, he would rather have the ratchet. I don't know if I'd rather have the ratchet because it feels so fake, because the ratchet steps don't seem to align with scrolling, especially because it feels like a toy plastic ratchet instead of like, you know, like a tool rather than like a scroll wheel step. This scroll wheel is better than both of them. It actually has proper steps. The click could be better. It's kind of like blip, 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 blip. I think that's because it's not even using a real switch. It's just using one of those button switches. But yeah, nice lock-in for your thumb. We're going to come around here. You can see the profile. It's in general very tall mouse. You're canted forward, and the bump is here. Like on the Deathadder, which you'll see coming up is here. On the Viper, it's about there, right? It's way up here. And with the mouse being canted forward with the very low front, very tall back, comparatively, by the way. Those are comparative terms. You really got to get your hand on top of it, like up there. So you're ready to see the rear end coming out there. This is like, it is not a replacement. You saw me open up a brand new G703 to compare to this shape wise. It is nothing like that. But it is a newer mouse with an ergonomic right hand, which they haven't had since the 703, the 603, 604, which was based on the 602. That's a glorious mouse. One of the guys that works actually has a 602, and I'm like, oh, you better take care of that thing because you can't get them anymore. And the 604 was just a straight up improvement. I've got some buddies that they had 703s from me, or sorry, G700s or 700Ss from me that I either recommended or gave them, either as like I had a slightly broken one that still worked fine, or as a gift, or just recommended when they asked me for one. They went to the 602. Well, they stopped making the 602. But then shortly after they stopped making it, they made the 604. Now 604s are $150 for a refurb, $300 if you want a new one. Ugh. Glad I still have mine, though. It's very good shape. It's kind of the 700 and 600 series were kind of like gaming versions of their like performance MX line / MX Revolution, MX Master line. So you can see already on this tip, like it's starting to fall off here. Even here, the front of it, if this scroll wheel looks tilted, it is not. That is just the fact of the mouse being, like, the whole thing. It isn't like a squared off front, like some of these right-hand ergonomic ones are fairly squared off in the front. This thing is canted significantly. Okay, now we're looking down on this side. Here you see that very sharp ledge. And it's not one that you rest your finger on top of. There's not enough ledge there. It is one that you want to scoop your ring finger under. Now, if you guys have a different way of holding it, hit me up in the comments. But I would lock that ring finger on or under that ledge there. You can even see some of my grease from where I get it right on there. And it locks it in. If you like, I wouldn't do a wrist aiming. I couldn't even, like, with my hand size and the grip needed for this mouse. More of a full arm aiming mouse. But if you want that style, the mouse does not move once you get it locked in. You got a little bit of a dip in here, but then it flares out substantially while falling off and raising up. Yeah, you can see there's grease all along that. That's from my ring finger. You're like, oh, yeah, I am just a greasy human in general. And I have fairly acidic sweat, where on the older soft touch, it would cause my hand to sweat even more and then eat through it. None of the current like UV coated ones will do that on, or the rubber, it won't happen, like the molded in rubber. But the soft touch coating, the old school soft touch that got gooey over time, oh, that was bad news for me. That's why back in the day, I would always go glossy. I would take, if you're like soft touch black or glossy white any day of the week. And actually, I did eventually convert Squares over. He was always a soft touch, but he's like, why glossy would be all slippery? Actually, if you have a nice clean hand, because of how smooth it is, it lets your little fingertips or your finger, I don't know if it's your fingerprints or what it is, but it can lock on there. I would argue better in the glossy than the soft touch black. So you have to work it in a little bit, you know what I mean? But much prefer those. Even converted those toward the end, but as soon as I converted him, he ordered one Vaxi mouse with the black gloss, and then they converted over the colors. And I actually, over both of what they had before, I prefer the colors. So that's what I recommend to you. You can see how much this flares out now over here. You're starting to see that, right? It curves in quite substantially right about here, and then flares out for that huge ledge, if you ask me. And here's a good way where you can see the profile where it goes from almost touching, like where the pink almost touches the surface, to where the butt is hanging way up. So that's how I can tell you this is not a rear palm grip mouse or like a fingertip grip mouse. It is a full-on big palm grip where your hand sits on top of the mouse. I feel this is where I don't know if Logitech was correct in making it. Like, how many of those grip type are left? I feel like grips have been transitioning more towards fingertip with the smaller mice, or claw grip, rather than palm grip. Like, I feel like, and I might be wrong. Let me know down below. What do you guys use? Do you use claw, fingertip? Also, even with claw, there's fingertip claw and palm claw, because it depends on if you rest your hand back here or not. Because of fingertip grip grips the sides and then claws. A palm grip wedges this against the back of their hand, but then claws. So, you could actually like this in claw if you have a palm claw and you have probably a pretty big hand. Because I really got to lock it in personally. Well, there you go. Like, look at that. Like, it is. You can even see the thorn in the background isn't as high that far away, so this should look lower. This is like a more classic shaped. Like, you really gotta. I now that I know, like, I'm gripping this mouse and I figured out how at least I need to grip it, I can do it. I don't. When I was using it for work, I got cramps. First night gaming, 2 hours, hand cramps. Then that was on last Friday, I want to say, when I did it. No, it might have been a midweek thing. And then I used it for 4 hours one night. No hand cramps. But I did switch to other mice. Oh, no. Because, like, there were times when I'm like, is it my having to do a full palm and not being... Like, you don't have much wrist movement here when you're going full palm like this. And I usually do a little bit of wrist aiming. Whether or not you think that's good or bad, yell at me in the comments, I guess. But something else I'll do, and I'll use this XE Small as an example. When I grip it like this, if you notice, I'm palming still because the top part here is in my palm. But I can actually pull it in and out a little bit. So when desktoping, I'll do actually my minute movements, not even by wrist movement, but just by, like, shifting the mouse using my fingers. And no way in hell is that happening with that thing. Unless you have some mitts. So, for running what hand size I have, it was in a non-mouse video, and then in that video we remeasured it. Who knows if I did it correctly. I got a nice ruler, though. So, that was your 360 on the Logitech G Pro X Superlight 2 Dex. Also, in the name of the Dex name. Okay, so I think it comes from, because this is an ambidextrous mouse, right? Ambi. So because this is only right-handed, it must be a dexterous mouse. Thus Dex.